Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today I wanted to make a video specifically on two priority categories which are very similar, and if you look at the visa bulletin you will see that it's somewhat a hard decision which one performs better, and a lot of times it looks like the priority that is underneath the first priority is actually doing better than the first priority. And yes, today we will talk about the first priority, F1, unmarried sons and daughters of US citizens, and also F2B, which is the same thing, unmarried sons and daughters 21 years of age or older. Here it's the same thing, 21 years of age or older. They just didn't put it, they really should, because it confuses a lot of people. But this right here in the second category is of permanent residence. So the only difference between these two categories, F1 and F2B, is that the petitioner is US citizen in F1 and then the permanent resident in F2B. And of course, as you could imagine, because after the permanent residence, after 5 years of being a permanent resident, you can apply for naturalization and become a US citizen. And a lot of times, because these petitions, family reunification, I-130, it takes quite a long time. The availability of the immigrant visa takes quite a long time for both of the categories. A lot of times, the petitioner, while waiting for the beneficiary to get the immigrant visa, they become naturalized. And it becomes an option to be switched from F2B to F1. And I actually got a really good comment recently, and yesterday actually I was addressing it in the previous volume, answering your immigration questions, and I thought I think it's important to make a separate video on that topic, because it might be pretty confusing, to make a decision whether you want to stay in the F2B or you want to switch to F1. And the reason why it might be confusing is because if we look at the graphs, both final action dates, graph A, and also dates for filing, graph B, you will see that currently, as of what we have right now on the visa bulletin, is F2B is actually performing better than F1. Because if you look at the dates for filing, supposedly as of right now, and I'll explain why I say supposedly, F2B, the immigrant visas are becoming available for people who filed their I-130 petitions back in January 2017, compared to F1 becoming available for people who filed back in August 2016, which is, yes, okay, it might not be a huge difference, but it's still a difference of 6 months. And considering how long people are waiting, and I can personally relate to waiting and looking at the visa bulletin, because I'm myself an immigrant, and I do have a petition right now, I-130 petition pending, and I check on this every month, obviously with this channel as well, make an updated video on each visa bulletin as it comes out, so I can definitely personally relate to everyone's patience and waiting for these to finally move. So even the 6 months, compared to years and years that we wait, but even the 6 months, it makes the difference. So in this video I will try to address a few points that hopefully will help you make the decision whether you want to stick around in F2B or switch to F1. But if you don't want to watch the whole video where I'm going through the statistics and the numbers of visas that are issued each year, and we will look at it and we will compare, that's what we'll do in this video. If you don't want to watch all of that, in the conclusion, as of right now, presently, as of what we have right now from the visa bulletin, it really is a gamble. Unfortunately, it really is a gamble whether you stay in F1 or F2B and which one is going to perform faster. Unfortunately, we cannot tell for sure. You might switch to F1, and in the next couple months, when the visa bulletin finally moves, because it's been sitting at the same for most of the categories for a very long time now. There wasn't any movement for like a year and a half now on the visa bulletin. In the next couple months, it might change. We might finally see some movement, and you will see that F1 is performing better than F2B because it's first priority category, and technically there are more immigrant visas that should be available for F1 category. And the same thing goes for F2B. We might see that it's just there was less applications in general in the F2B category, and maybe a lot of people switched from the F2B to F1, and now there's less immigrant visas that need to be issued for the F2B, so now the F2B is being processed faster. You see, it really is a gamble, and especially considering that the visa bulletin had not moved for such a long time, it is really, really hard to tell. Personally, me personally, if I was, if I had a petition and my beneficiary was in F2B, and if I became naturalized, I would switch to priority 1 category. Why? Because it is priority 1 category by definition, by the regulations that were implemented by the Department of Homeland Security and Congress, together on the issuing the availability of the visas, and you can actually find the exact numbers here. Technically, there are more immigrant visas that are available for the priority 1 category. Again, it might be a gamble because there might be more applications in the F1 category, and we will break it down in detail just in a little bit. But to give you a rounded conclusion, it's really a gamble, so it's your personal decision. Personally, for me, I would switch to the F1 because it does have more availability of the immigrant visas, so that's what I would do. But if you want to see more details, stick around, we will get into it. So let's start talking about the availability of the visas. So for priority 1 category, we have 23,400 immigrant visas that are available annually, that are being issued each year to this particular category. Plus any number not required for force preference. So from the force preference, we have whatever the number is. If there is something that is not required, it goes to on top of the first to the first priority. Okay, so now for the second priority, F2B, we have 23% of the overall second preference limitation. And for the second preference limitation, we have 114,200. All right. So if you calculate 23% out of 114,000, it comes out to pretty much about the same number as this. So very, very similar. Now let's take a look at the statistics. And if you've never gone into the statistics, I would definitely recommend you checking it out. Why? Because it's really helpful to see the actual numbers. We can talk about the percentage, we can talk about, exception here, limitation here, but when you see the actual numbers, you kind of get a more a better idea of what is happening whenever it comes to just family preference in general, family immigration in general. So we're gonna go to visa statistics, and that will give us a page with all of the years that are available. And there we go. So we got all the way from year 2000, and we actually gonna go to the year 2000 just for the comparison. We're gonna go to 2005. We're gonna go to 2010, 2015, 2020. So let's see which one I have first here. Okay, 2000, perfect. So if we scroll down, this looks a little bit different because if you look at the recent ones, you will see it's broken down a little bit better. You have a preference, immigrant visas issued, family preference. This is what we need. So let's see if I can find it here. Family preference in 2000. Let's see, immigrant visas issued by foreign state, chargeability area of birth. Is it family though? I think it is family. Let's see, let me type in family here. Wow, family is not coming up. So I guess they just were been issuing all together in one. Summary of immigrant and non-immigrant visas, immigrant visas issued. All right, so let's click on that PDF and see. Okay, there we go. So we get family preference in general here. Unfortunately, it's not broken down, so it's a little bit hard to tell with this one. Yeah, so it's not broken down in the category. Okay, that's fine. Let's go into the 2005 and let's see if they've broken it down here. Let's see, family. Nope, they still didn't. Okay, we will leave the 2000 and 2005. Let's see 2010. Family, there we go. Okay, so they started doing it after 2005 sometimes, breaking it down for the family preference. So this is where we're gonna go. Preference immigrant visas issued. All right, there we go. Click on that. Okay, so this is the PDF document. These are the actual official numbers that are coming out from the Department of State for each specific preference. We got our first preference, we got our 2A, 2B, third preference, fourth preference, and then the total number of visas issued for each country in each continent. So, actual numbers. Let's scroll all the way down for the totals, and then I'm going to do the same thing here for the 2015 family preference, and then the same thing for the 2020 family preference. Okay, there we go. So we have 3 PDF documents. I'm going to scroll all the way down on all 3 of them. So let's start with the 2010. Okay, so if we look at the 2010, first priority category, 25,740 immigrant visas has been issued. Second 2B, second priority category, same thing as 1. It's just the petitioner now is still a permanent resident and not a naturalized U.S. citizen. We have 6,000 more immigrant visas that were issued. And you might look at this and think, well, it doesn't really make sense. If we have more availability for the priority one, right? Why are there more immigrant visas that are being issued to the second priority, to the F2B? That doesn't really make sense, right? Well, you also have to consider the amount of the applications that are coming in. So if you have less applications that are coming in from the permanent residents compared to US citizens, well, that kind of shows here in the numbers as well. Just because this number shows more for the F2B, these numbers, it does not mean that the availability is more for the F2B compared to the priority one. Alright, let's move on now to the 2015 and see if this is the same case. Okay, so now in 2015, we see in the first priority, there was 22,346 visas that were issued. For F2B now, 22,726. So almost the same, just 400 under. Alright, let's take a look at the 2020. We got the 2020 here at the very bottom, first priority category. We have 7,534, all right. F2B, we have 11,183. Again, much more, almost 4,000 more immigrant visas issued for the F2B category compared to F1 category. Okay, so let's take a look at 2021 now and the 2022 and see if this is the same case. I'm going to actually close these all out. All right, we get 21, family preference, and 22, this is the most recent one, the most recent statistics, family preference. Now, this right here, we have to keep in mind that we had the whole fiasco with the pandemic and the closures. All right, so we're still looking here, scrolling all the way down. Let's take a look here now. First priority category. Only 6,344, second F2B, 6,265. So a little bit more of the first priority. Again, you see how much the numbers dropped. It dropped significantly compared to the previous year. Why? Because we had this whole pandemic. So when you're looking at your visa bulletin, I will go back to the visa bulletin here, and we're gonna go to the most recent one, April 2023. When you're looking at this has not moved for about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years now. All right, some of these numbers. The only one that was updated recently was for the F2A that we finally saw, and it's about 2.5 years of delay, which shows us how much of that artificial backlog happened on top of the existing backlog that we already had because of the visa limitations. And I really hope that you're, keeping up and I'm not going too fast. But let's take a look. Back at the 2021, we see this absolutely just low numbers, really low numbers compared to the previous years. But the first priority is performing just a tiny little bit better. Okay, let's take a look at the 2022 now. Okay, we're gonna scroll down. This is the most recent one, okay, for the 2022. And we're gonna look at the grand totals. First priority, we have 17,045. F2B, second priority, 15,000 and 315. So what is going on? Why is now we have the first priority performing better than the F2B? And of course, the answer to that is because as we're catching up, and because by the availability of the immigrant visas, because it's the first priority. At the end of the day, however you look at the whole graph, whatever the numbers tell you on this graph right here, at the end of the day, the very first thing it's broken down by is the category. And by definition, the F1 is the first priority. There is a reason why it is the first priority, and this is the second priority. It is broken down that way for a reason. US citizen will always have, and I'm not, I don't want to sound like, part of this like bureaucratic and like, oh, you're this and you're that. We're all human beings, and this is just, basically labeling, right? Whatever. But at the end of the day, we are part of the system because we are in the process, we are in the immigration process, we are waiting. So if we are entering the game, we play by the rules of the game. That's just how it is, unfortunately. And the way this game is set up, first priority will always have priority over the second priority. And the previous numbers that you're looking at, just because at some of the years the second priority was performing better than the first priority and actually didn't just catch up to the first priority but actually passed the first priority, it is not an indication that overall being in F2B category is better than being in F1 category. And we are now starting to see it because of this artificial backlog that happened, because of things catching up. We are now seeing F1 getting more priority and being processed faster. Okay, I hope after 17 minutes of me explaining this, it's clear to you, and now you have a better understanding of how this works, and you also understand the reason why I said that personally, yes, I would switch from the F2B to F1 if I was in that situation and if I had that option, because F1 it has more priority, and we can see it now getting more availability. At the end of the day, whatever you decide, it's as you can see, it's not a huge difference. It's not a huge difference between the two, and I think that even if F1 eventually in the next few months, hopefully we will see the rest of the categories. We saw the F2A finally move in April. We didn't see nothing move for a very long time. Finally, F2A moved in April. So we will see. May will come out in like 20 days. We will find out what the May bulletin looks like. So May, June, July, I would say 2-3 months ahead, and we will see movement on the rest of the categories. Hopefully. That's my prediction. Why? Because we finally saw some movement. So I think the rest will follow. All right. And most likely, I think there will not be, even if F1 gets the lead over the F2B, just because it is priority, just because you see in the most recent years, it's getting more immigrant visas compared to the F2B. Even if it does get the lead, it's not going to be by a lot. So there's really not going to be much of a difference in the wait time, whether you stick in the F2B or you switch to F1. But overall, at the end of the day, because F1 is the priority above the second priority, by definition, personally, I would switch to F1 just to be on the safe side and not be stuck in the second priority category where there's just by their own rules that they defined, specified for whenever it comes to the visa cap, not stuck in that category and wait and be one priority above. So hopefully now you understand. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. I will be happy to address them. Like I said, every day it's been so far. I've been going through all of your comments. In fact, I have all of them pulled up here, and probably today I will do another video where I go through all of the comments and answer them one by one, so no comments go unnoticed. Right now we are on volume 56, so the next one is going to be volume 57. So if you ask the question today, probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I will have the volume where I answer your question. As always, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. God bless, and I will see you in the next video.